everybody. Thanks for joining us today. We're excited to be covering one of our newest features, Deductions Navigator for Home Depot. Real quick, I'd like to introduce you to both of us. My name is Hayden Peters, and I'm a small to medium business customer success manager here at SupplyPike. Joining me today is Annalee Foley, and I'll let Annalee introduce herself.
Hey y'all, I'm the product manager here for our home improvement channel. So today we'll be talking about Home Depot, and we're super excited, especially since Home Depot just launched a couple weeks ago. So we're excited to show you all the things.
And before we get started, I've got a few items of housekeeping. We'll provide a recording and the slide deck of today's presentation. That should only take a couple of business days and will be sent to you at the email you registered with. And I guess to go and get started, some of you may be asking, who is SupplyPike? At SupplyPike, we develop software to help CPGs identify and reduce revenue loss by automatically detecting, disputing, and resolving retailer compliance issues. And that can be shortages, that can be price discrepancies, all of which I think Annalee is going to talk about today. If you have a question as we go through today's session, go ahead and put those questions in the chat. You can also drop them in the Q&A box in your Zoom toolbar. There should be an icon that says Q&A. We'll try to answer those questions as we can along the way. And then at the end, we will also have a dedicated Q&A time as well. And with that, I will cede my time over to Annalee.
Awesome. Thanks, Hayden. And like Hayden said, please feel free as we're going through all this content, drop any questions. Hayden will interrupt me and we'll get to those questions. And I've got a notepad here to write down all of your questions in case, maybe we can't answer it today. But I'm really excited to walk through Home Depot, kind of cover some high level Home Depot stuff, and then dive into the SupplyPike app and what we're looking at for Home Depot. So yeah, I'm sure everyone on the call is probably familiar with chargebacks at Home Depot. We know them, we probably don't love them that much. But yeah, so what are they? They're the deductions, the AP deductions. So Home Depot, probably a little bit dissimilar to some of the other retailers, does refer to them as chargebacks. But it's anything, of course, where Home Depot is withholding some sort of payment from your invoice. So kind of looking at those main chargeback reasons that Home Depot has, again, kind of dissimilar to other retailers, they have a shorter list. Doesn't necessarily make it easier, but maybe a little bit easier to keep track of. So their main three are shortages, pricing discrepancies, and trade discounts. Just one other thing to call out, it seems like in the last few months, they've added a couple other ones. You may have gotten notification from Home Depot about that. But they have now pallet credits, and I believe kind of a general other fees and charges kind of blanket bucket sort of chargeback. They claim that those should be not very common, but they've just added them to kind of give more visibility should they need to exercise those. But really diving into the main three we have here, shortages. Of course, that's where Home Depot believes that the quantity received is different from the quantity that was invoiced. They did not receive all of the product. Again, probably something that we're all very familiar with, unfortunately. And then pricing discrepancies, of course, if there was anything with the pricing of the SKU that was off, versus what was ordered and what was invoiced. And then trade discounts is kind of the third and kind of not oddball, but they are contractual, of course. But Home Depot kind of treats them as a chargeback if the correct amount is not being taken at the time of invoicing. So those are our main three. Of course, primarily, most of the disputing falls into those shortages and sometimes those pricing discrepancies. So we're going to talk more in depth today about how you dispute and kind of also what that looks like in the SupplyPike Act for Home Depot. So again, something we're all probably familiar with, but where can you find your chargeback information? So once you log into Supplier Hub, you should have access to the merchandise payables, self-service portal, long name MPSSP, but that's where you'll find all of your AP deductions, as well as your unpaid invoices and returns, all of that good stuff. It's an orange app. There's a lot of different buckets, a lot of different places where things hide, but kind of generally speaking, here's what it looks like. And just, again, we're all familiar probably, but as a reminder, Home Depot says that you can only dispute things over $25. So just be keeping that in mind, but, they won't distribute the dispute package if it isn't above $25, and just terminology that I'll be using also when we kind of walk through the SupplyPike app. But chargebacks are our deductions, and you can have multiple chargebacks against one invoice, and those will be wrapped up into the dispute package, and that is how you dispute with Home Depot. So they have chargeback dispute packages, of course, for AP deductions, and then they have the open invoice POD packages for unpaid invoices. Today, for the purpose of going over the SupplyPike app, we're really going to be focused on those AP deductions, since that's what we'll be disputing within the SupplyPike app. But of course, just wanted to mention the unpaid invoices and kind of the terminology there, since it is another big bucket within merchandise payables for revenue loss. So definitely wanted to touch on those. I think another important thing to call out in the relationship between those AP deductions and the unpaid invoices is just kind of the changes that Home Depot has been making within, their DCs, their financial systems, as they converted those two RDCs towards the beginning of the year, and I'm sure they'll continue to be doing more. So just to keep in mind, it looks like now Home Depot will, in lieu of the open invoice POD packages, they're going to be distributing full invoice shortages. So those will be the chargeback dispute packages for those particular RDCs. So if you're shipping to those, I know one is 5639. It's the Lacey and the Salem, I'm pretty sure. Don't quote me on numbers. I'm bad at keeping them straight sometimes in my head. But those two different RDC types, they will, have the full invoice shortage if there was no key rec, no record of receiving, instead of those open invoices. So something to be keeping in mind. They've kind of shifted where those live within merchandise payables as well. So there's a couple different workflows we're working against, but I think I'll kind of talk about it when we get into the app here in a second, but kind of a perk of the SupplyPike app, you don't have to manage those multiple workflows, especially as they continue to convert those RDCs and DFCs to this new financial software on their end. But yeah, without further ado, let's get into the SupplyPike app for Home Depot. So excuse me as I kind of shift screens here, but we're really excited. I think I know I mentioned that at the beginning of the call, but we're super pumped to have Home Depot supported now within SupplyPike. We're really just also excited to be jumping into the home improvement space. We know that there's a need in that industry, especially for revenue recovery. And so we're excited to kind of be at the forefront of that and really dive in with suppliers hand in hand and tackle these Home Depot deductions. So this is kind of a look at what we've come up with for the Home Depot app. If you are familiar with some of our other retailers, this is going to look very similar. So nothing, too crazy or out of the ordinary, but we'll talk about some of the nuances, of course, of how Home Depot operates that we've accounted for in our app. But in general, I'm really excited because Merchandise Payables does not do the best job at giving suppliers a good look into their deductions. And so what we've done here in our dashboard is we've really consolidated and aggregated all of the information that you could want in one place. So right now we're kind of looking at, this is of course fake data, but you get the picture. We're looking at a last year of deductions. So how dollar amount that you received, your total actionable dollars you can go after today in dispute packages, and then approved deductions, so what you've won back and your win rate. So just getting this general understanding without having to go through the hours of calculations or grabbing data from different sources to try and understand this will be huge. And also, I'm really particularly excited about this deductions by status. Really being able to track the life cycle of that dispute package and understand what bucket those dollars are falling into, just to understand from a cash flow perspective and everything else, really nailing down and understanding where those dollars are sitting. So of course, the goal is to get them all on the side here with the approved or the unfortunately denied, but right, we want a resolution on those dispute packages. So the goal is to move those dollars over. And again, really the main thing here is just understanding visibility of where are these dollars falling into and actions that can be taken on the supplier side. Then kind of drilling down a little bit further, we've broken up deductions by type. Again, we only have our 3 codes here. But again, this is a really great holistic look at how many shortage deductions did I get for the past year, and then same with pricing discrepancy and trade discounts. It might be kind of surprising sometimes, if you're looking at your data in this context, maybe, especially with how merchandise payables kind of segregates things, it might be surprising to see in bulk kind of like how much you might be losing to some of these codes. So really a good look and kind of a good gut check too, especially if one of these categories seems higher than you're anticipating, particularly that trade discount. Contractually speaking, your team has probably designated, a certain amount out to Home Depot and what you expect to spend with trade discounts for the year. And so seeing this at a high level could be really insightful if something seems off, of course, and diagnosing further. And same with pricing discrepancies too. I feel like, at Home Depot, really the focus ends up being on shortages, but how can we identify pricing discrepancies that might just kind of be, getting shoved under the rug, and really bring those to the forefront and trying to understand and diagnose and pinpoint kind of where those are coming from. And then kind of on the other side of that too, we have deductions by amount over here. So this just kind of shows you a breakdown in these buckets where the dollars are falling. Again, this is really insightful too, especially if teams have thresholds that you might be working with. Just you're not going to dispute anything under that. It might be kind of interesting to see, if you have a, disproportionate amount that are falling under $100 or, kind of those lower amounts. And then again, the 100 to 1,000 and then over 1,000. Just some good numbers to play around with. And then we also show count. So just understanding too the volume of deductions you're getting within those ranges as well. So a lot of good information here just to kind of understand, again, right now there may be a lack of visibility, particularly with the status and just where these dollars are falling. And so we really wanted to provide visibility and give, a quick way to understand kind of what's going on, what's the big picture here with Home Depot. And two, something else, you can always filter down by a particular date and kind of manipulate these numbers to whatever you want to see. So if we wanted to look at for, just the past month, how many deductions did we receive? Again, a great way to kind of understand, if 1 month or a set of time frame was like kind of disproportionate to your overall story with Home Depot. This is a really great way to kind of nail down and understand. And then, of course, maybe work internally with other teams to understand, what might have been going on shipping wise or other with Home Depot during that time period. But with that being said, let's jump into the deductions. So this is our deductions list of what we call it. And this we'll pull in all of your deductions for the past year. So based on chargeback date, we know that is what Home Depot will let suppliers dispute. And so we want to make sure that we get all of those in there so that we have the best chance at going after every single dollar that the suppliers owed. So again, if there's a dispute package for it in merchandise payables, we're going to pull it in here. And then we've kind of sorted everything, bucketed it to kind of create workflows and efficiencies within teams. So you'll see up here at the top, we have new, in progress, resolved, and then all. So the new, in progress, and resolved, these tabs here are really designed to kind of help inform and give those workflows. So we'll start by looking at the new tab here. So again, this is really anything that the supplier can take action on. So you'll notice here at the top, we have pending vendors. So that's anything where, you've submitted it off to Home Depot. Home Depot's come back and said, we need XYZ or whatever it may be. And they've kind of put the ball back in your court. So with Home Depot, we know in these scenarios, you only have 30 days to act on it before they automatically deny it due to inactivity. So that's a really tight time window, especially when we're talking about, you might have to go to an external source to get proof documentation, or you might need to give them a response, anything like that. We're working with a tight timeline. So we want to make sure that we put those up at the forefront just to help, once you come in, you're looking at your deductions for the day. These are probably the ones you want to start with, right? So we want to make sure that those are right up at the top, easily accessible. But then under, we have these not disputed. So I'm going to go ahead and filter down by not disputed here with our filters. So all these filters apply kind of across all of our tabs, but you can filter by status, you can filter by chargeback types, you can filter by file types. So I'll get more to this in a second too, but I think really where Home Depot suppliers are going to see the most time savings with the SupplyPike app is obviously our document integration. This is going to be huge. But then again, obviously, if we're managing exceptions or trying to understand what documents have or haven't been attached, automatically, we'll give you the tools kind of here with these file type filters to filter down. So you'll see all, any, and only. So if you wanted to look at any that have a BOL, or ones that only have a BOL or only have an invoice, or without, all of the tools that you could possibly want to drill down to exactly what you want to see. And then dates, same thing. So you can filter down by invoice date, deduction date, dispute resolve, which come into play more so on the other tabs there, but really great tools to kind of understand, or if you're trying to track something down, or kind of how we were talking about on the dashboard, if you're wanting to look at a specific time period, these filters are going to be really helpful. And personally, my favorite is this amount tab. I know a lot of suppliers today, especially with Home Depot, might be working against kind of how we mentioned earlier, some sort of threshold. You're not disputing anything under $250. So really the goal is here, we would love to see those dollars disputed, right? Because that just means more dollars back in your pocket. So we can filter down to any that, are below dispute packages that are below that $250 limit. Let's say that's what our threshold is. So a really great place to start, right? And then, let's throw a chargeback filter on there. Let's say any that maybe have a shortage. So now we're pulling up any dispute package that has at least one shortage chargeback. So kind of one thing I want to call out here too, now that we've kind of filtered down to what we want to work on. You'll notice that the line items here, these are at the dispute package level, and then we have all of the chargebacks that are rolled up into it. So the purpose here really was, one, we want to make sure that we're disputing exactly how Home Depot expects. And then two, of course, just how Home Depot formulates everything. Again, the visibility here, we wanted to keep it consistent with Home Depot. So you'll notice that really it's the same, and then we show the total package amount, but you can always jump in, and then we'll break down kind of what those chargebacks and the amounts associated with them. So you'll see here we had a shortage for $52 and a trade discount for $7. So breaking it down, and then we also provide some high-level order information. So right now in merchandise payables, some of these data points can kind of live in a couple different places. So we wanted to put it all in one spot so that you had it associated to this dispute package in one easy, clean place. And then, okay, let's say we're ready to dispute. So we've got our create dispute over here on the side. You'll notice that we always will populate the full shortage amount. This is just because we know that truly the shortages are kind of the low-hanging fruit with Home Depot and what suppliers are mostly going after. So we wanted to make that simple. So, you don't even have to think. You've got your $52 for the shortage that you're ready to dispute. Your invoice and your BOL got automatically attached. You didn't even have to think about it, right? And you could go ahead and just submit dispute and not even really have to think about it, which is awesome, huge time savings. But let's say you did want to go ahead and dispute that trade discount for $7.20, or you can add your freight carrier information too as an additional field. So you'll click that edit details, and you'll be taken to this little edit field, and then you can fill in all the information. So we'll select our carrier, we'll throw in our tracking number, and we'll even throw in $7.20 for that trade discount. Our total amount got updated. We'll save, and bam, we sent off that dispute. So really exciting. And then we can move on to the next one. So really here, what we're trying to get at is driving those efficiencies. Again, I think the huge piece of this is really going to be the document integration and not having to go dig for those BOLs and dig for the invoices and try and get everything attached. You'll have everything there. You can review the final details of that dispute package, but then really just send it straight back to Home Depot for them to review. So really exciting. And again, the information that we provide on this page is kind of just aggregating a lot of different things for merchandise payables and making it, clean and concise. One thing I want to call out too, we have a couple of different places within our app where you'll see, more info. So this will just link you out to our help center and show you and give you kind of information that we've written up about deductions at Home Depot and our app as well. So we want to give you the tools, to be successful and understand Home Depot deeply, because, they're always throwing different things at us. So we want to make sure that we're all staying up to date and informed about Home Depot. Kind of moving on, let's move into our next bucket. So this would be kind of the next stage in the life cycle of a dispute package with Home Depot. So these are any that you've disputed. So they are in Home Depot's court. We're waiting for them to review. So Home Depot action is kind of the tag that we give them. One thing I want to call out here too, across all of our different tabs, you can kind of filter down so you can show, ascending, descending amounts, dates, all of the things. So really exciting, especially, when you're kind of deciding what to work on. And then you can filter down to different amounts to show in this field up here too. So super helpful to get that high level look, right? But let's take a look at one of these Home Depot action ones. So it looks like this one we disputed a pricing discrepancy, a shortage, and a trade discount. So that's really cool. But one thing that we know is kind of a critical piece of communicating with Home Depot when these dispute packages are being reviewed, or just throughout the life cycle, really, is the opening a dialogue. We know that Home Depot doesn't technically have an official redisputing process, but really this opening a dialogue is the way to try and get another set of eyes, or understand where we're at in the process with the dispute package, anything like that. So I'll kind of throw something in there. I'm of course making this up on the fly, but you'll be able to send them a dialogue just like you would, within the merchandise payables app.
Annalee, we had a question when you were going through the docs. In your example for submitting docs, you show just the BOL. Do you know if this also includes the gate stamp? Our experience with Home Depot is we need this doc to dispute. Thank you.
Yeah, that's a really great question. So yes, in these examples, we do have the BOL. I think, this is kind of, especially if you're a collect supplier with Home Depot, a challenge that many are facing today of how do we get the POD. And I think that's one thing too, where SupplyPike can come alongside and help provide support where we can. We've heard from suppliers that, sometimes the best way to get, get your hands on that POD would be to email the carrier directly. I know it's hard because you don't necessarily have a relationship with that carrier, but there are some carriers that have a Home Depot specific dedicated support that suppliers have had success in getting that POD, the live unload stamp on there. And then of course, some carriers will even kind of, again, it just depends. I know that the carriers are so regionally based with Home Depot. Some carriers do have ways to access the tracking information, or from that point to further on, requests from their team, the POD essentially, or other proof of delivery documents. So, there are some ways. It's definitely a challenge and can be case by case, especially on, who was your carrier, or who are your main carriers with Home Depot. And again, I know that can change because they might be consolidating, out to other carriers, but definitely something that on the SupplyPike side, we're aware of. And we're definitely, in tune trying to help suppliers figure out the workflows to get those and get those attached to the dispute packages within our app. But yeah, just across the board, it's definitely something that collect suppliers with Home Depot are struggling with. But I think the other thing too that is important to keep in mind, that we have in all the data that we've seen success with just disputing with the BOL. I'm sure that we've all experienced that as well too, but I think the big thing too is just let's go after every single dollar, every single dispute package that Home Depot distributes, and try and see what can be won back, and then manage the exceptions where they might request the POD, or whatever it may be, and see how we can get our hands on that documentation as well. But I know that was probably a very long answer. And also too, I think we'll probably have your email so we can maybe connect afterwards and talk through some case-by-case situations too, since it can be so specific, too many S's, so specific with certain carriers. So, but yeah, would love to talk more about that too. So we just opened our dialogue. The last thing that I kind of wanted to cover too, that gives a lot of visibility where merchandise payables may be lacking today, is just the resolved cases. So we know that you might be disputing multiple line items, and there could be difference in the outcomes between those two chargebacks. So we really wanted to make that clear in our app to really understand those approved dollars versus those denied dollars. So you'll see here a pricing discrepancy and a trade discount was disputed. If you click into it, you'll be able to see, at a glance, where did those dollars fall between those two chargebacks and the outcome for them. So again, really important to just understand. And then those dollars obviously get summed up into our dashboard, and you can see them fall into those buckets as well and have that high level data there. So just really great ways to get your hands and understand better and more cleanly where the dollars are falling within Home Depot. And then of course too, on those denials, you have the ability to open a dialogue, request someone look at it again, or provide any additional context. And another thing I wanted to call out too is that we have the activity log. So this is a straight mirror from what is in merchandise payables today, with their activity log that they kind of have at the bottom. So we wanted to make sure that we had all of that information there, just because, it's important to understand who reviewed it, when did they review it, what did they say, and then also kind of on the other side of that, as the user here in SupplyPike is adding documents, submitting the claim, all of those good things, opening a dialogue, we wanted to make sure that we had record of it here. So this will be the record keeping spot. You'll see everything that happened within that dispute package here, and all of that information will stay up to date. So again, great resource, great way to understand kind of where are we at with this dispute package. So yeah. I think the biggest thing here too that suppliers will find make it very easy to kind of work through some of these dispute packages are these filters up here at the top. But then too, of course, if you're in the new bucket, or if you're even trying to go through all of your historical and all of your current ones, this is kind of what the all deductions tab is. You can filter down by a string of numbers. So whether that be invoice, PO, dispute package number, you can find it here, or even if you only know the last 4 digits or the first 3 digits, you can filter down and try and locate from there. So really great tools to try and understand, especially, if you might need to be looking something up in specific, this is a great way to do that. But then also just trying to, drill down to different scenarios or different timeframes, amounts, all of the good things. So really want to help enable teams to be able to work through the dispute packages, of course, efficiently, and then just make it slightly more enjoyable than what processes might be today. I know that's kind of a weird thing to say when we're talking about deductions, but really we're all about driving recovery and driving efficiencies. So really excited to get this in the hands of users and learn more about Home Depot and learn more from how users are interacting as well. Hayden, I don't know if we had any other questions or any other thoughts.
We haven't had any come in just yet. Oh, we have one. Will be disputing all open deductions or something that we need to identify for you? Also, what information will still be needed from us if you will open a dispute package like the invoice, etc.?
Yeah, that's a great question. So kind of in this new tab, we'll pull in everything. So you don't have to, I think a common workflow today when working with merchandise payables is you might be working off of the EDI chargeback notification document that you might be getting, and then kind of working from there and looking up certain, chargebacks within merchandise payables. The nice thing about the SupplyPike app is we're constantly getting that data, and we're going to be refreshing it nightly. So, any new dispute package that Home Depot distributes, we're going to automatically pull into our app, and it'll flow into this new tab. So that's where you'll be able to see all of these not disputed. So we'll display oldest first, and then, kind of work from there. But again, I think the important thing is here, we're doing the hard work of identifying which ones need to be disputed, right? And pulling in that information, that data nightly, and making sure it is most up to date for users. And then the other big thing is we know these pending vendors. So this is where Home Depot says, hey, we need something from you, right? We want to make sure that obviously we're pulling in all of the data and it's up to date here too, but then putting it at the forefront right up here for you in this new tab. As far as documents go, We have an awesome integrations team, and they can kind of help cater to the needs of individual suppliers. And, how are you getting your documents today when you dispute? Basically, if it lives electronically, digitally, we will be able to get it from somewhere, which I think is really cool. We have also on the engineering side of the house an integrations team, and they solely work to build out integrations to grab documents, which is huge. So really, again, if it lives electronically, we will be able to grab it and associate it to these dispute packages. So hopefully saving a lot of time. And then, yeah, just as a general note, kind of what we've seen from the suppliers that we've worked with to build this Home Depot app. Some of the best documents that you can provide, I think BOL is huge. Obviously, that's kind of the number one, and especially if you're collect, we should have our hands hopefully on a BOL. And attaching that is big. Some other additional documents that we've seen kind of be successful in disputing invoices, your supplier's copy of the invoice. We know that Home Depot has kind of their version of the invoice living inside merchandise payables, but I think it's really important to have the supplier's copy of the invoice sometimes too, just because that copy should have SKU level information, whereas the invoice, Home Depot's copy of the invoice within merchandise payables really only has the original amount, any chargebacks, and that net amount. So having that item level information can be really huge in disputing your claim. Some other things that we've seen be successful: packing slips, packing lists, what left the warehouse on that shipment can be really valuable when you're disputing as well. So, and then of course, I know we talked a little bit earlier about PODs. Some suppliers have figured out kind of the magic there and how they're able to track down, their specific carriers for Home Depot, how they're able to get their hands on those PODs and they're attaching them to claims. And sometimes that might be via email. Again, our integrations team can kind of help work out through, if we're able to get our hands on it, how we can integrate it and get it automatically attached to these dispute packages.
And I'll piggyback after that information you mentioned with SDIs and documentation. A question I know that we'll be getting asked as CSM says, when will auto disputing become available?
That's a great question. So yeah, we just launched it a couple weeks ago, but we know auto disputing is going to be huge, especially for Home Depot and just the volume at which they give suppliers dispute packages. So I'm excited to say that hopefully here in the next month or so, we should have auto disputing. And this will be a really cool tool. We'll give users the power to kind of determine exactly how they want the auto disputing to take place. So you'll be able to say, I always want to dispute those shortages in full automatically. And I don't care about the limit, just as long as there's a BOL attached, automatically dispute it. So then our system will identify all of the dispute packages that fit the criteria, and then we'll automatically dispute it. And you don't even have to think about it. And then, you can really customize that to whatever you like, and especially, what documents you're providing. So it's going to be a really great tool, especially, I'm also thinking about it too, if you do have a threshold today that you're not disputing under, this is a really great way to say, I wasn't going to get to these in the first place. Let's go ahead and have, SupplyPike automatically dispute them and then see what we win back. So a really great way to kind of get that set up too. And just, you already weren't going to get to them maybe. So let's just dispute them and see what Home Depot has to say. So really excited to provide that tool. And then kind of piggybacking off of that, we will also be providing bulk disputing shortly after that, another feature that our other retailers we support have. Again, so you could filter down to exactly what you want to see and then dispute 100 at a time. So another efficiency functionality that we're really excited to offer.
When do you close a dispute package? Follow-up question to that.
Great question. So yeah, just as Home Depot kind of updates the status on dispute packages, we will mimic those statuses exactly as well. So, you dispute, it goes into Home Depot action. Home Depot says, after a week, generally speaking, we've seen the turnaround time, recently be about a week, 2 weeks. Generally, compared to other retailers, Home Depot is relatively fast, which is exciting, getting those dollars back sooner, hopefully, right? So let's say after about a week, Home Depot makes a decision, they approve your dispute package, you get that money back. It is now in the approved status. and we would move that claim into this resolve tab. So again, we're really just exactly as the data shows in merchandise payables. Now that dispute package is closed, the chargeback has been approved, and we're going to move it into this bucket. So you'll be able to keep track of all of those here. Yeah, so really, again, just want to iterate like exactly as the data shows in merchandise payables, because that is our like source of truth here, right? We want to make sure that we're keeping your data up to date in the SupplyPike app. So that's why we're going every night and we're grabbing it, and we're making sure that you have the most up-to-date information in front of you here in the SupplyPike app.
We had another question come in about the SupplyPike backup documents, so the POL, BOLs, PODs, invoice copies. Yes, as we are able to set up those SDIs, that information we pulled in automatically to the portal and submitted with your dispute. We had another question. Does this include deductions in SPM? So for fill rate, ASN timeliness, on time, and ASN accuracy?
Yeah, great question. So for right now, we're really just focused on the AP side. But I think, in this question is, evidence really, since we're so new, we're really trying to understand too, hey, we knew that AP deductions were kind of the biggest pain point with Home Depot, but what's that next biggest pain point? So it seems like we're getting a lot of feedback, especially after launching Home Depot, that compliance is an issue. So that's something that our team is going to be really diving into here in the next couple months, trying to understand, process and pain points, and definitely something that we will consider down the road of bringing that compliance disputing into the SupplyPike Act, kind of similar to our other retailers we support today. But yeah, so definitely if you have any feedback on compliance, I'm your gal. I would love to hear about it and all of the pain points and all the things with Home Depot.
And another question that I have that I'll piggyback off of additional future services. Will the tool track unpaid invoices similar to other iterations of your app?
Yeah, great question. Yes. So kind of how I was talking about when we went through the first few slides, we know unpaid invoices, they kind of go hand in hand, honestly, with the AP deductions and make up kind of what we've seen, another big piece of the revenue loss at Home Depot. And just frankly speaking, the disputing is very similar to how you dispute the chargebacks dispute packages. So our goal is by kind of the end of this quarter, so end of Q2, we're going to hopefully introduce unpaid invoice disputing. So it'll be very similar to the process that we just walked through today. So we'll pull in all of those POD dispute packages. Again, all your documentation, as long as we're able to digitally grab it, it'll be associated with those POD dispute packages. You can glance over the details and send it off just like you would these chargebacks. So again, we know that it's another big piece of the pie of revenue loss at Home Depot. So we want to make sure that we're supporting that too. So kind of the next big piece after, of course, auto disputing.
And we got another question. Is pricing for this service available at this point? Yes.
Great question.
Yes, it is. Reach out to your account manager or your customer success manager. And then also Annalee and I will have our emails here in just a second. If you need to reach out to us, we can get you to the appropriate party as well for pricing. Do we have any other questions? Do we offer a trial period?
Yes, we do. So, if you onboarded to our other retailers in the past, you might have gone through the trial experience with them. So Home Depot will be offering the same thing. One huge thing here is we want to make sure that we can look at your data and understand what's going on, and that we're both on the same page, right? SupplyPike and the supplier. We want to make sure, hey, there is a problem to solve here. And then getting your data in our app and taking a look at it kind of with the dashboard and with the deductions list view, just like we went through, kind of helps us better understand too. And then of course, we want to make sure that you can get your hands on the application and understand how it works and how it will improve processes and all of the things too. So trial, yes.
We got one more question. How do you avoid sending the POD for the wrong customers to Home Depot?
I avoid sending the POD to the wrong customers for Home Depot. So our OCR technology that we use to kind of identify PODs is really unique, and I think honestly, kind of the unspoken hero here at SupplyPike. So We scan, again, if the document lives digitally, we're going to scan it and we're looking for that unique PO number. So that's kind of how we tie everything together. So we're looking for that Home Depot PO number, we locate it, and then we'll be able to aggregate it to your dispute package. And again, our integrations team is awesome, and they are very well trained, well experienced in all shipping documents. So they can also help, if there's certain unique scenarios, can kind of help work through those. And then again, we'll tailor all of those integrations specifically to fit your needs. And then of course, be as successful as possible in getting those documents automatically attached to the dispute packages.
We had another question. What is the average recovery rate so far?
Yeah, that's a really great question. Here's the thing. It really can vary from supplier to supplier. And I think the hard part here is like trying to understand too, especially with the limited visibility that Home Depot gives, where some of these issues might be stemming from, right? So it's one big thing that we support here at SupplyPike is the obviously get paid, but the get better. So let's really drill into those things, try and do some root cause and understand, where things might be going wrong. But generally speaking, if a supplier has a lot of, they are getting everything electronically, at least a BOL, maybe the invoice and the packing slip. I've seen kind of maybe somewhere in the 40 to 60% range. I think the thing with Home Depot is they are, I think we probably all know, very quick to deny, unfortunately. And so, at that point, opening a dialogue is a great way to kind of escalate, or, at a certain point, you might need to aggregate some data and bring it to your buyer to say, hey, we got denied for all of these over the last 6 months. Do you mind taking a look and walking through some of this with me? And, I think another important thing to note there too is like before we get to that stage, here at SupplyPike, we really want to help you try and understand, again, the root cause, make sure that, everything is how it should be, and really trying to drill into maybe some issues up the supply chain that might be happening and kind of creating some of those shortages that you're seeing with Home Depot.
We have one more. I have 3 disputes open currently that haven't been resolved since December and January. How can I get Home Depot to respond to these disputes?
Great question. Have you, I'm just kind of the next step that I would take, you haven't opened a dialogue, maybe open a dialogue and try and get someone to get a set of eyes on it. Another great resource there would be, in Supplier Hub, right when you log in, kind of up at the right top, they have the submit a ticket. So this submitting a ticket kind of escalates it a little bit further, right? So you might be able to get someone to take a look. I will say when you're submitting a ticket, it does seem that it's going to the same team that is reviewing the disputes within merchandise payables, but it seems to kind of put it at a higher priority, potentially above the actual disputes themselves. So submitting a ticket would be a great way to kind of maybe get some attention on those. Beyond opening a dialogue. So in that message, they kind of have like a form, it drops down, you can select all your different things. And then I would just put the dispute package numbers or the invoice numbers associated with those and just say, hey, these have been sitting here for a while. Do you mind taking a look? Something nice to get their attention. And then, maybe if you've already done that, I think kind of, the next thing too is, you might just have to wait, unfortunately, but also, depending on your relationship with your buyer, or if you have another contact at Home Depot, I think reaching out to them would be a great next step to try and understand. I think also in the Supplier Hub resources page, if you do a quick search, you might be able to find their accounts, their finance team essentially, and maybe you could try sending them an email. Don't tell them I told you to do that, but you might have some success there. I know that they have some dedicated support emails for their finance teams that could be found in Supplier Hub resources. So
it sounds like they may be hard to get a hold of. Any other questions for us? It looks like that might be it. And as always, we have our resources available online. Supplier Wiki is a great wealth of information for all things related to being a supplier, whether that's SWEP fines at Walmart, Target deductions. I'm sure soon enough we will see a Home Depot handbook available as well. If you guys have not checked out our resources, obviously, please feel free to do. Supplier Wiki is great. And with that, I think that's probably everything for today. Below are our email addresses if you need to take a screenshot or write these down real quick. These will also be sent to you, as we mentioned earlier. And then, as always, we have SupplyPike.com where you can find all the Supplier Wiki information, as well as additional information just kind of about us in general. Annalee, do you have anything else for today?
Yeah, I would say y'all had a lot of great questions, and you have my email now, so I would love to talk more about Home Depot. Like I said, this is kind of just the beginning, so I'd love to understand too more about, what you all are experiencing with Home Depot, or if you wanted to follow up on any questions that you had today, feel free to reach out. Would love to chat more.
Cool. All right. Thanks everyone for attending, and thanks for using SupplyPike.